The first question, everyone's talking about it on YouTube right now. Are we in an AI bubble?
Yes. So no, we're not. I
You
don't
don't think
think so.
so?
I don't think so. I think when you kind of think about it, we are creating something that is truly magical. Intelligence is the thing that has made us successful as a species. And we're now distilling that into a smaller and smaller unit that can be spread all over the world and that is going to be cheap and widely abundant. So that's just a remarkable thought. Like,
Yeah, but we kind of had the same thought, during .com crash, like we're inventing internet, blah, blah, blah. But there are some companies that, their valuations are much higher than their revenues. And like everyone's talking about NVIDIA investing and then that revenue going back to NVIDIA. What do you think about that?
No, I think the value that we're going to produce in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be unprecedented.
So you don't think we're going to experience something like, 2008, COVID?
I mean, who knows? But I think if you just focus on the fundamental value that's being created, this is the best prediction engine anyone's ever seen. It's the smartest, most capable technology we've ever invented. It's improving faster than anything we've ever seen. It has got more easy to shape and control, not less. 3 years ago, we thought that it was going to get more chaotic and more disorganized, that we weren't going to be able to sculpt it. And now we're producing beautiful, powerful, amazing experiences that are surprising us every month. So yeah, I know I'm genuinely very bullish.
Okay, so you're not worried, you're good, and we shouldn't be worried. Okay, that makes me feel better. Okay, let's talk about AI becoming more conscious. You talked about it in one of the podcasts that we perceive AI more and more as human.
Yeah.
How fast is it happening? What's going to happen in the next few years?
It is getting more human-like. It's getting more accurate. It's getting more fluid, more smooth. And that is unprecedented. At the same time, it's definitely not conscious. It isn't aware of itself. It can't speak about itself. It's very different to what it's like for a human to have a subjective experience and to feel pain and suffering. And it's very important that we keep reminding ourselves of that, because consciousness is the basis of our rights-based framework. And it is the thing that gives us responsibilities as citizens in societies, that allows us to vote, which allows us to be subject to the law, which creates order. We can't begin to attribute this quality to a new species. That would be terrible for our species.
Yeah, but we still heard stories of Google, the story that you told in your book of Google engineer who was convinced by AI that it was experiencing sadness and it was afraid of being shut down.
True. Yeah. And that was an anthropomorphic projection. People, just because it has some human qualities doesn't mean it has all of human qualities, including subjective experience. And I think we can prove that it doesn't have subjective experience, that it isn't going to emerge this kind of self-awareness. That's just a sci-fi fantasy. And I understand why people sometimes go there, because we've been schooled on sci-fi for as long as forever. And it's a natural assumption to make. But these things don't suffer. They don't feel pain. They're just simulating high quality conversation. And that is magical and it feels amazing. But that doesn't mean that it feels something internally to be one of these models. So we've got to be very careful about that.
Because some people talk about our kids having real relationships with AIs in 10 years, like getting married to AIs. Do you think it's something that could potentially happen? And if yes, how can we prevent that?
I think the history of the human condition proves to us that if it's possible, someone will probably do it. People do crazy things, but the majority of people don't. The majority of people are pretty sound of mind and pretty sensible and just want to live healthy, happy lives. And so if some people choose to marry their AI in 20 years' time, I'm not going to kind of sit here and necessarily judge that or say don't do it or do it. If you ask me my opinion, I don't think that these should be treated as entities that are of equal moral significance to humans. I think that they should be in service of humans. They should work for us. That's why we invent technology. I love the technology behind this microphone because it amplifies our voices and distributes them to millions of people on the internet. That is a technology that is in service of humanity, that's doing good.
Yeah.
That's what we want. And I don't necessarily think that These are an idea of superintelligence that is autonomous, that can self-improve, that can set its own goals, that can act independently of humans. That to me doesn't feel like a positive vision of the future. It would be very hard to contain something like that or align it to our values. And so that should be the anti-goal. That's not what we're trying to build.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we're trying to build a humanist superintelligence, one that is aligned to our interests on our team, in our corner, backing us up. That's the great project that we're engaged in at Microsoft with Copilot.
But then again, a lot of people are talking about AGI. Is that similar to superintelligence, or how would you?
Yeah, you can think of AGI as a step before maybe superintelligence, but roughly speaking, they're used fairly interchangeably.
Because Demis, your ex-co-founder, mentioned we could achieve it by 2030. Can you talk about what it means for society?
Yeah, I mean, I think achieving human level performance at most tasks, I wouldn't say all knowledge tasks, that feels quite likely in the next 5 years. I think it's a fairly grounded prediction. If you think about it, these models already do many tasks better than a human. I mean, summarization, translation, transcription, research, document writing, maybe even arguably poetry or some parts of literature or whatever. So you can see that they're taking steps towards being as good as a human at being a project manager or being a marketing person or an HR person or having a tough conversation with somebody about a diagnosis for a medical condition they have. So it is going to fundamentally change work in the most profound way. It's going to change the type of work that we do. 10 years ago, it wasn't possible for you to do the job that you're now doing. But with streaming content, you don't need a big team around you. You don't need to be part of a big institution. So we've democratized access to the power of broadcast with the arrival of the internet and streaming and podcasting. That's amazing. Now with these models, we're democratizing access to intelligence. So you don't have to be a really privileged, wealthy, educated person that has access to capital to be able to found a company, to hire a great team. You're going to have a team of intelligences around you that are the best lawyer, the best doctor, the best teacher, the best project manager.
Enjoying this clip? My name is Marina Magilko. I am an immigrant in Silicon Valley, but I'm also a creator who is based in Silicon Valley and is genuinely excited about everything that's going on. On my main channel, you'll find full interviews and deep dives, entrepreneurship, careers, AI, immigration, investing, all the stuff that helps you grow. Subscribe to that channel. Link is in the description. So you don't just get highlights, you get the full story.